Yeah, welcome everybody once again to today's class. And we will be kickstarting from where we left off in the previous class. And in the previous class, we were talking about HTML structures, HTML, which is actually the structure of the web page. And as we all know, you can't basically build anything without having HTML as your backbone. And I made reference to it in the previous class, saying that HTML is simply like an architectural design, which you are going to know. HTML is your UI UX designer is the architect rather, who draws the plan of what your website is going to look like. Then you give it to your builders. So HTML stands as the block which you will be using to build your web pages right from scratch and all. So we would be looking into, in the previous slide, we talked about the headers, the p tag, the image tag. We also spoke about how you add images, the link tag. We spoke about table. And another important, we spoke about the list tag. Another important element of HTML is actually forms. So with forms are what you use to collect details. When you want to sign up to your website, you want to allow your users to be able to contact you. It is form that you are going to use so that they can send you message and you will be able to send them message also. And also there are also different kind of forms which we are going to see in this class. Sorry, please, are we all following? Can you all hear me? Please, are we all following? Can you all hear me? All right, so we will pick it up from forms in today's class, then we move on from there. And in today's class, we'll be talking about forms and CSS. So we're going into CSS today also. We'll be going into CSS. We'll be going into CSS basically today. We'll be also going into CSS. So just stay along with me as we go ahead on this journey. So for forms, we will have, just like a table, you have an element called form. And also, before I go into, I saw your submission, and most of you did pretty well. I just hope you guys were able to do your due diligence, not having to leverage on AI, trying to get to the answers. I saw some of your submissions. I saw every submission, but I can't tell which was AI or not. So because they all answers are quite similar. So, but regardless, I hope you were able to get the understanding of what I wanted you guys to do. So let's go ahead. So for forms, you have like a tag called the form tag. And with the form tag, once you have the form tag, you are able to send message and all. So the first thing we will do right here is we have an input field, and there are various kind of input field, which is from your text to your number and all. So, and I also want you to know that your form tag is not like a semantic, your form tag is just like a wrapper holding your form, just like the table is the wrapper holding your table element. So then you have your label. You have your label, which is what you use to define the type of form it is. What is the name of the form? So you have first name. You have first name. So we have our closing label. We have our input field. So we have our input field. We have our input field right here. So we then have a type. This was where I was saying that we have various types. We have a type of text. So we have like a placeholder. You would see some form that they are in their predefined text inside of each one of them. So we have a placeholder. Then for the placeholder, we would just write enter your first name, and let's save and see what we have. So if we scroll to the bottom of our page, can you all see my screen? Can you all see the bottom part of my screen? Okay, yeah. We are right here. We can see we have our enter your first name. And by the time we enter our first letter, it goes, our placeholder goes right away. But you can see that this is actually an input. If you can remember, I mentioned in the previous class that we have inline elements. So this is more like an inline element. A label and an input field are inline elements. So how do we create like a you can just do something called a line break, which is a BR, which is a self-closing tag. So with this, you are able to bring your inputs and your first and your label to be on two different lines, basically. So do we understand? Do we understand? I'm trying to see if you're understanding what I am doing. So let's just create like a simple contact us form. So we have the first name, we have our label also. So for this also, we also have to have our break, we have to have our BR tag right here. So we have to have our break tag. So we have label. So it has to be in small letter, but HTML normally is not case sensitive. I want you to know that HTML is not case sensitive, but it is just a standard practice that we make use of small letter across board. So we don't have small letter here, there. We don't have small letter at the beginning. We have capital letter at the end. So it's just like a standard coding practice, which we all do, that we all use small letter. It's like an unwritten rule. You know, when you were in school, there are like written rules and there are like unwritten rules. It's just like an unwritten rule that we have become so accustomed to follow over time. Are we all getting me? So we have a label, then we have last name. We have last name. We also have label right here. And we have our break tag. So if we are using this, you just have to add Ezechukwu, why are you annotating on my screen? Ezechukwu, why are you annotating on my screen? Let this be your last warning. Ezechukwu, don't annotate on my screen. Be careful not to annotate on my screen, please.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Thank you. So we have our break tag. Then we continue. We have the input field, which is a self-closing tag. Then we have type, which is a text. And we also have our placeholder. We have our placeholder, which is enter your last name. And yeah, so BR again. We have our BR tag. Then the next one, we have label. We have to add contact info. So we have label, phone number. We have a label right here. Sorry, I didn't write. So you also have to be careful that you always write your text properly, that you don't have anyone that is not properly spelled, because that could introduce what are called bugs into your code, basically. And you are still writing a small, oh, sorry, let me increase my screen a bit. So sorry. Can you all see my screen now? Is this okay? Can you all see my screen properly now?
Yes, sir.
Is this
Yes, sir.
all right? All right. So let's continue. So we have our phone. Then we also have our type of. We have our input. Then we have type, which is going to be a cell. So you can see the um, various type of input field that we have. Then we just close it. So let's save and see what we have. So we will have a placeholder right here. Placeholder. Enter your phone number. So let's save. So if you scroll down, we'll see my first name and it automatically fills. Then we would have something called a label. A label also. We have tell us more. Tell us more. Then we close this. So you can see I will also tell you, like I made mention in the previous class, that though I have a abbreviation that could help me, I like writing out my code in full. So we have, so if I want to have a bigger box, we just have text area, and we would have a, you don't have to worry about this. So you have, let's just have a placeholder. Placeholder. Tell us about, just tell us how you, tell us more. Tell us more. So let's save, and we would see we have a text. Oh, sorry, I didn't have a break tag right here. That was why we're having the issue. So, but when we get to CSS, you would see that we would have like more stuff to do. So once you enter an input field, so we can just have a code, 30, 20, and we have a row 30 also, rows 30, 20. So that will give us like a bigger box for our text area, because most times our text area are always big. So we have rule of 30, so it can be wider. So let's have rule of 40 and see that should be a little bit wide. No, that's the length. Sorry, 20. Then column of 40. Column should be, so that should give us like a wider. So let me reduce the row to 10. I'm reduce it to 10, and yeah, so we have something more compact. Yeah, so this is just like the basics of form. And I don't know, do we have any question? I'm still also going to introduce you to other types of form that we have, because we have the radio button, we have different kind of buttons also. We have the radio type of button, which you just select, which you have like a select field. So let's also have that. Let's have something like this. So you want your users to be able to select how, want users to be able to select how they got to know about your contact information. So you have something like this. You have, let's use a p tag. So I want you to know that your p tag also works in a form. So you just have, tell us how you got us, how did you hear about us? So it's something, it's most common in a form. How did you hear about us? So I just close this. And the next thing we would have is, we'll have an, would have this. So we have an input. We have an input of, so I have our emit abbreviation, but I have radio. So I would, at this point, I will start using a bit of emit abbreviation here and there. So I have something called the ID. So this is going to be like an identifier. It's going to be an identifier for what we are doing. So let's continue. We'd have HTML. So tell us, how did you hear about us? Would have what are they? We'll say WhatsApp. WhatsApp. Then we would have our value. We'd have our name, which is going to be, how did you hear about us? About us. So I'll just have something like this, about us. Then we'd have our value. Our value is going to be WhatsApp. So once you save this, you would see an option. You see an option, right? Tell us. So there should actually be a break tag. So no, coming. Oh, there have to be a break tag here. So you can see it's actually stressful trying to write break tag here and there, but we are not seeing the option of what we wrote in front here. So let's fix that. So we have our input, radio, ID of WhatsApp, value of WhatsApp. Then we have our label. Our label is going to come right in front of it. So we have our label. So that's going to be like what is informing you that this is the object you are clicking. So we have WhatsApp, and yeah, label. So you would have seen something similar to this on your browser over and over again. So we can just do the same. Can do the same for let's say Facebook. Let me just duplicate this. So we have ID for Facebook. So this is going to be Facebook. This is going to be Facebook here also. Facebook. This is going to be Twitter or X, as we popularly know it, X. And this is also going to be for X. So when we come right here, we just write X. So let's save and see. So you would see that on various pages, you just select either one of them. So you can't select multiple. So this is how you have multiple select options on your screen. But there is still more to this. When we build a fully fledged form, you would see how we can work around all this, because this is like learning them in isolation. So when we get into building more stuff with HTML and CSS, we will get to know more about it. There is also an input field of checkbox. So let me just duplicate what we have here. Let's duplicate what we have here. We just have, let me give it a title of, let me see, courses. I have radio type of checkbox. So I have front end. I also have course. I also have front end right here. Front end. I have front end right here. Front end. So I will just duplicate this. I'll have checkbox right here, so I can just automatically write at once. So to make use of this shortcut, either in Visual Studio Code or CodeCamp, you just press down your Alt key and you click on where you want to, on the element you want to change. Then once I click on it, they all delete one after the other. Why? Sorry. So sorry, there's an issue right here, but I hope you understand what I am saying. I have an alt text right here, right here, and right here. I'm not deleting from this end. So I just have changing everything to checkbox. So we have back end right here, back end. We have course. So I'm also supposed to change this also course. Let me change this alt. So let me change this also. Sorry. Let me change this. So these are some shortcuts you won't see in a book or anyways. When I've been using it, so that is why I'm more familiar with these shortcuts. So I can just have course, and we have backend. I have backend here also. Backend. For the label, I have backend. I have product design. Sorry. I have product design. Product design. Product. So I have here product. But for my label, what my users are just going to select. So I have product design. So let me just comment out the last one so I don't spend a lot of time on it. So once it's saved and you come right here, you can see that we have a checkbox which we can check one after the other. So I can just check backend or product. So checkbox, you can select as many as possible. So that is what we have. I hope you understand the forms, but we can now go into what is called. Do we have any question? Let me take the next 3 minutes to answer question. So I want us to take the next 3 minutes to answer question. Prince, I just corrected someone to stop annotating on my screen. And you are also annotating on my screen. Please let this be your last one here. Always be guided by your hands. So, Oruch, I'm sorry, I don't want to misspell your name. Kinoye Mandalin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, I want to know the difference. What's the difference between a label and a form?
Okay,
An
so
input type and a form, yeah.
input and a form.
Yes.
Okay, a form is like when we have the table. A form is like the, will I say, the wrapper that holds everything together, just like when we have the table. So the input is where your users will be able to type into it. So if we just have something like this, if we just have a form, if we have a form just like this, it does not mean anything. It does not mean anything. So let's scroll down and see. You can see it does not mean anything. But for your users to be able to see it, you have to have an input field or something inside. It's just like a semantic HTML tag that defines, telling your users that telling our users that, okay, telling your users know that you're using a form tag, because I can actually build a form using a div, but I don't want us to go into those technicalities of saying that you cannot use form, you have to use div. So I don't know if you understood, Mandalene.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
All right. So Abel, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
So I see I'm just going to ask if we have two options for the radio button, how is it going to look like? For example, the way we have how do you hear about us and we have options. What if we have something else like your gender and you have male or female or others? When you pick those male or female, I feel it's going to uncheck what we have picked here for how did you hear about us, since you can pick only one.
Yes, for things like that, for gender, someone can have two genders.
Yes, I'm saying on this same form now. Let's say the
Yeah.
next one after this we have gender. There's option for male or female. If you pick
Okay.
male here and you pick Facebook here, the male is going to uncheck.
I'm not getting your question.
Okay, if we add another option down, like gender, and we still use radio, male
Okay.
and female. So somebody that is
Come,
filling this form,
let's try that out.
okay.
So we have gender. Sorry. Gender. So then what do we have? Let me just pick it up from here. And we come right here and we paste this. And we have name of gender. Gender. We change this to gender also. Gender. Then we have a value of male or female here. Let's have female, 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 and we also have female here. We also have male here. We have male here. So we have a value of male. Male. Let's also add others as you mentioned. So let's have others. Let's have others here. Others. We also have others right here. So let's see. So this is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
So you're saying that if we select WhatsApp here,
Yes.
and we come down here to select main, it's going to clear off. It's not going to clear off. You know why it's not going to
Asking,
clear off?
yes, that's what I wanted to get the clarification. Why is it not clearing
The
up?
reason why it's not going to clear off is because if you can see how what we did right here on this about us, we have each one of them have a similar name about
Oh,
us.
okay.
So like this is like a unique identifier for each one of them that is telling them that we can't select more than one. So you can see for the name, it has about us, which is like an identifier for each and every one of them. So once you have selected one and you're trying to select a new one, it checks it's already a controlled element. We are not the one controlling it. It's like it's already an inbuilt function which we just select from. So by the time we select each one of them, it checks if one has been selected before, and if one has been selected and you want to select another one, but still has this name. It checks with this name. If it says that it still has this name, it's going to uncheck the previous one and check the other one. So do you understand?
Yes, yes, I get it now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So do I still have any other hand raised? No, there is no other hand. Or do we still have any other question? Do we have any other question? Please, what is the essence of the value? Must it be there? The essence of the value is simply because that is where your data are going to be gathered. That is where your data are simply going to be gathered, because you would either send it to a database, or you are going to use it. So I'm going to send it to a database. So with value, yeah, that's how you're getting what your users are going to input. So on this part, when we're having a controlled form, we are not going to have like value right here, because whatever is typed, when we are getting it, when we want to use it, we have a dot value to it. Then we get what we want. Do you understand, Ogochukwu? Do you understand? Ogochukwu, do you understand? For when you're
Hi.
using a form, when you're using an input field, who is that? When you're using an input field, you have to add a value. For input field of radio or checkbox, you have to add a value to it so that you can have, what's the name? So that you can get the particular value of what your users are selecting, because you're giving them a pre-selected option. You're giving them options to select from. So once they select a particular one, for you to be able to know the particular one they select, that's why you have that value right there. Ogochukwu, do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Olani Olatubosun, if the about us is changed in one line, does it mean we'll be able to select? Yes, definitely. Well, let's try that out. So let's just do about and save this and see. We have about, so let's save, that is for Facebook. So you can see we select X and we select about. So you can see if they are not of the same name, you can easily select two at a particular point in time. And it's actually going to disrupt the flow of your information on your back end. Because most of the data you are going to be collecting on the front end, you are going to be sending it to a database, which is going to be eventually going to be analyzed. So, Olatubosun, do you understand?
Yes, very well.
Olatubosun.
Yes, yes.
Olatubosun. All right. So we are now going to add a button. So we are going to add a button to our form so that we can see. So there are various, you also have a button type of button. So there are various type of buttons. So you have like button, submit, you have submit, you have button. So I have button type of button type of, can see I have submit, I have reset, I have menu. So if I say button type of submit, and we come right here and we fill in audio details right here. I just fill in audio details here. I select WhatsApp, I select front end, select my gender, and I just input random things right here, and I click on the submit button. It's automatically going to reload our page, and you can see all the information that we selected are right there. So we are going to talk more about the different type of buttons that we have when we get into JavaScript, because that's where we're going to use it more often. Do we understand? So I think, are we clear on HTML? So before we can decide to go into CSS. Are we clear on it? So I also want to know that there are various types of buttons. So if you want to build like your password, your input field for password, there's also a tag for password. So if you have like a label, let's have like a label right here. Let's have label. We have password. We close our label, and we have input field, and we have a type of password. So once we save this and we come right here, so where is our password? I'm going to start entering something. You can see it's automatically marked. You can't see what you're entering. So that's some of the kind of field that we have in what's the name? In CSS, in form rather. So all these are some of the minor things we do. That okay, you are creating a form and you want to build like a sign-up form, and there would be like a password. The first thing you just have to, you will have a password field, and you just have to put a password. So you don't have to start going through the process of trying to max your password so that users can see it. Yeah, Blessing, your hand is raised. Kindly go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Please, how do we like does the way you wrote this password now, like how can we see it? We writing the password, how can we see it?
Oh, that's where JavaScript comes into play. That's where JavaScript comes into play, because this is just to mask the item from you writing it. So with JavaScript, that's where interaction comes into play, that you have to click something. You know, when you see a form, normally, you will see that it's more like an eye icon inside your input field. Where you click on it, it shows you the password, and when you close it, it does not show you the password. So that's interaction. That has gone beyond the normal scope of HTML. So when we get into JavaScript, we would work on that. So what if I need to put in input of dates? Okay, so there's also an input field for dates. So we have this, we have a label, and we have date of birth, date of birth. So we have label, and we put input field, input type of date. So, and we close this. Let's see what we have. Never. So you can see we have date of birth, and you can select from the previous years. You can go back to select any year you want. So you don't need to, so you have it already. So George, your hand is raised. Go ahead. So how can I get a recording to this class? Just hope I missed some. Yeah, it's always on the YouTube. Every class is always on the YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube and search code.camp, search CodeCamp, KodeCamp, CodeCamp. You will definitely see it. So, George, I didn't put a closing tag to the, well, yes, most of all these things, it can work on my local machine, but when it goes to a browser and you want to compile it, that is where the issue comes from. I'm trying to see how I can remove this annotation. I'm going to remove the annotation now. So, let me try to, so I've cleared the annotation. So I have George, no, Henry, you have a question. Go ahead. So George, it could just be like a minor issue on my own end. It could be a minor issue that, okay, I removed the closing slash from the label element and it still worked on my local machine. But by the time we get into, what is it called? By the time we get into when you are deploying your application to a server, you will definitely have issues with it, because it will be like, what that simple line is going to break your code. That's when you hear people saying, oh, my code worked on my system, but when I deployed it on a server, it was breaking. So just don't make that kind of mistake. But in some cases, those kind of mistake would always happen. Israel, this class has not ended. We are just 40 minutes into the class. I said we're going to use Visual Studio Code this week. I'm going to do it. So don't push me ahead of class. I am working with the syllabus, because this code sandbox is simply what you guys are still going to use for your assignments. This is the link you're going to submit to me for your assignment. So if I don't explain to you in depth how to use code sandbox, you would keep telling me you're having issues when you're trying to submit your assignment. So be guided, Israel. I don't know if you're the one that was pushing for Visual Studio Code in the last class, but please. Is Henry, your hand is raised. Can you go ahead, Henry?
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate
Yeah.
how you are breaking it down. So, my question is, part of my question might sound amateur because this is my first time of venturing into coding.
It's
So,
fine.
for these
There's
tags
not.
you taught us, are they
Yeah.
like
What did you say?
okay? Are they like for example, they are starting for the tags these tags you just talked about, these different tags you talked about, are they like
Yeah.
a place we could get to see them? Let's say, for example, now we come across an element that we don't know the tag. Is there a place we could search for it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are places you can go to. You can just go to MDN documentations. MDN documentations. So just go to your browser or Chrome or any browser you make. You just type MDN documentations. You would see it there. You will see all the kinds, even the ones that have been outdated, the ones that are still dated. You will see everything there. So do you understand? Henry, are you there? Messi, your hand is raised. Kindly go ahead, Messi.
Okay, thank you.
Didn't
So
see it.
for
What's
this,
the logic behind the name? The name.
Messi, go ahead.
okay, so for this date of birth, when you impute the dates, and then it showed like different type of years and months, like how is that possible? Is it done automatically?
Okay, for the date, you can see that we are using a type of date. We are using a type of date. So according to the builders of HTML, once you use a type of date, you automatically sense that you are trying to create a date field. So that is why once we just click on it, you can see it has the month, date, and years session. So once you just click on it, it pops up like a calendar for you to be able to select from. So the only thing you just need to do is just have an input type of dates. And once you have an input type of dates, you are good to go. Do you understand, Messi? Messi. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I think we are good. And if there is no further question, we move into CSS. So before going into CSS, I just wanted to show you that everything you are going to write in your code sandbox, if you just copy and paste it on your Visual Studio Code, you would definitely get it. So let me open up my Visual Studio Code. Let me open up my Visual Studio Code. Let's see, Abigail. I can hear myself. Abigail,
Good morning, sir.
yeah, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Okay, so there's this part of
Your network is breaking. I can't hear you, Abigail. Abigail, I can't hear you. I can barely hear you, Abigail. Your network is breaking. Am I the only one? But Abigail's network is breaking. I can barely hear her. Abigail, I can't hear you if you are speaking. Henry, your hand is raised. Go ahead. Go ahead and speak. Henry, your hand is raised.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you again. I was asking this one question. I guess my network was bad. So when you did this name tag that you had gender value. So I'm asking now, what's the logic behind it? You explained about that of value, which I understand. Then what about the name? Is it the same? Is the same logic you explained about the value
Okay.
tag? that
The,
it
the
also
name,
informs
the
the
name
backend,
is
the data.
the name is more like grouping them into an element. The name is grouping them into an element so that you know that okay, this particular element they are all together. They're like an identifier for each one of them. So you can see that for a gender class, you just want them to be able to select one gender, either male or female. So when we have this, we just pick up gender, which is, we give it a gender, a generic name, which is gender. So every value we are putting under here, even if it's hermaphrodite and likes, it would just pick only one. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly for you to understand, but it's more like an identifier. It's telling your browser in depth behind the scene that, okay, this is an identifier for each one of them. So if any particular element is selected for gender, check it if a previous one has been selected before. If a previous one has been selected before, uncheck it and select that new one. So it's more like a checker on your backend. There are some things that goes on behind the scene of the code we are writing that we don't know about. So it's more like checking it in the backend to be like in the background, not backend, sorry. In the background, okay, you have given it a name for this. That's why you can see that this about us right here, that one has an about us, but the Facebook has only about. That is why we can be able to select multiple. You can see we have WhatsApp and X. Once we have WhatsApp and X, we can select WhatsApp and X together. But if you notice, we can select Facebook because the name is different. The moment I had, Messi, I can see your hand. Let me finish explaining. The moment I add the us to it, it's not going to be, I won't be able to select them all together again. I can only select one of them. So do you understand? I don't know who raised up the hand again. Who was that asked the question?
It's me, Sir Henry. I
Do you
understand.
understand?
I understand, sir.
All
Yes,
right.
I do.
All right.
So more like
Messi.
grouping. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Messi, go ahead and ask your question. I want to
Sorry,
dive into Visual Studio.
in continuation to the question I asked before, the input on the date and date of birth, like, can we also find that in VS Code the same way it is on
Yes,
the sandbox?
yes. Everything you are doing right here, if you call, I actually want to try it out. Everything we are doing right here, if we copy it, and paste it on Visual Studio Code, it's going to work same way. So I want to open up my Visual Studio Code and just copy this code, paste it on our Visual Studio Code and see the results. So let's try that out. So Visual Studio, let me open up my Visual Studio Code so we can see that. So let's come right here. So I have my Visual Studio Code opened right here. So we all can see my Visual Studio Code. With this, I will just create a simple element. I'll just create a test.html. So first thing you have to do when you download your Visual Studio Code, you have to download something called Live Server. So just go to your extension folder and type this called Live Server. So once you type Live Server, you would see multiple options, but based on popular demand, based on the popularity I have, based on the popularity this particular one has, what it does is you don't have to manually reload your page itself. Once you auto save or do anything, it automatically reloads your browser for you. So that's what it does. That's what the live server does. But every other thing, I write other programming languages. That's what I have, and I've customized my Visual Studio Code to look different than others, to look different than others. So you might see some things on my Visual Studio Code that is not on yours because probably you're just downloading Visual Studio Code for the very first time. And you might not be able to, you will see something and you'll be like, sir, my Visual Studio Code is looking different. I have customized my own Visual Studio Code to look a particular way. So let's continue. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this is how you create a file in Visual Studio Code. I have test.html and save this. By doing so, I made mention of it in the previous class that if you come to your index.html, you open an HTML file, and you want to have a boilerplate for your HTML, what you simply have to do is you just click on your shift and your exclamation mark. You will see like a doc type, like this sort of, what will I say? You have this sort of boilerplate that comes up. You don't need to memorize it in your head. You just do your exclamation shift. And by doing that exclamation shift, it gives you like an HTML boilerplate, which you can work with, which is the same thing. If you can remember in the previous video when we had on HTML, when we started with Code Sandbox, I did the same thing and it worked. So let's continue. Abigail, your hand was raised. Kindly go ahead. Abigail, your hand was raised. Kindly go ahead and speak. You were breaking the other time. So be fast about it. Abigail, oh, she has dropped off. Okay, so let's continue. So the same way we have this, I would just come right here to our CodeCamp box. I would copy everything we have here. I would just do Control A, Control C, and I'm going to paste it right here. Control A, and I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to save it. For us to be able to view what we have, you would see once you have downloaded the live server, you would see a kind of key below your screen, an option which is called Go Live. So once you click on Go Live, it should open up your browser, like what you have right here now. As you can see, it's opened up my browser for me. So, and everything we have right there is the same thing we have right here, as we can all see. Do we understand? Do we understand? Does it sound confusing? Do we understand? So the thing is, for your tax, you can. I don't understand, Kenneth. I don't understand what you mean by how do I identify my sandbox? I don't understand what you mean by how do you identify your sandbox? What?
Where will I see the sandbox?
Where will you see sandbox? Were you in the previous class, Kenneth?
No, I wasn't in the previous class.
Okay, so just go to your browser. Have you watched the previous class video?
No.
Why?
I was thinking this was the first video. I in
So that's all right. That's fine. Just go to Code Sandbox on your Chrome or your browser. Just type Code Sandbox, and it will come up with a web-based text editor which you can use to write code if you don't have a system. But along the line, it might, because it's web-based, it consumes data. It does not consume data, but you have to be online for you to be able to write your code and the likes. So just take note of that. So I think I also have a file right here. I also have a file right here, which I'm also just going to copy. I'm just going to copy this and go to our Code Sandbox. And let me go to our About Us page here. Let me just paste it right here. So I think we have our About Us button right here, and we click on our About Us. You can see I just copied from our Visual Studio Code. I pasted it on Code Sandbox, and it's working fine. So for your tags, what you just need to do is what you just need to do is on your Visual Studio Code is what you just need to do when you want to submit your element, your taxes, you just copy this link. You just copy this link on your URL on your you just copy this link and you submit it. That's all I need from you for your tax. So, and make sure that your sandbox is actually visible. Don't make it private, make it public. Code Sandbox is connected to GitHub account because I have a GitHub account, and it asks if yes, Code Sandbox can be connected, but I don't see a need for you to connect your Visual Studio, your GitHub account to your Code Sandbox, because along the line we will not be writing code on Code Sandbox any longer. We would be writing in Visual Studio Code. So there is no need for you to link Code Sandbox. How do you make your sandbox public? Once you are creating a Code Sandbox account, it's going to ask you. So let me create a new Code Sandbox account. Let me create a new sandbox. Let me create a new sandbox. Let me create a new sandbox. Go to my dashboard. I'm creating a new sandbox for anyone that meets it previously in the first class. Excuse me. I'm so sorry for that. So once you come here, you click on create. By the time you click on create, you see HTML plus CSS. Just click on that, and you will simply do what? Just call it any name you want. And what you have to do is you change this to public. You can see where you are creating your sandbox. You can see everyone can view. So once you click on that, everyone can view. And you click create, it's automatically going to create a sandbox for you. Patrick, you are not restricted to use Code Sandbox for your assignment, but you have to submit a Code Sandbox link. If you submit an hosted link, you are not following instruction. Don't write in Visual Studio Code. You can write in Visual Studio Code, then you can write in Visual Studio Code, copy your code, paste it on Code Sandbox, and copy the link and send to me. If I'm seeing Netlify, Vercel link, that is automatic 0. So I want you guys to pay attention to instructions. Samuel, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good morning, everyone. So, when I try to create a code sandbox, when I click the create button, the options under the various segments, popular, front-end, back-end, nothing shows, just shows no results.
Probably it's your network.
Okay, thank you.
So you can see I just created it just now. Probably it's your network. So let me
as a first-time user, would this still appear the same way?
Yes, it's going to appear. No, it is because I have created some things previously. That is why I have recent. But if you have not created anything, it's going to be empty. And when you click on import, create rather, not import, you will see popular and the likes. You have to search for HTML plus CSS. Search for this HTML plus CSS. Because I have recently used it, that is why it is showing under recently used. But you can just see HTML plus CSS.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Felicita. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce the name properly.
It's Felicitas.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah, can you
So, okay, like the assignment, it was
Okay.
not like you did not make the sandbox compulsory. You said you can use apps like, so I was thinking it was more like an option. And because I did not know how to use the sandbox, I created
What do you know
my
how to use? What do you know how to use?
GitHub. So
GitHub. So it's simple.
just
wait, Felicita. What
okay.
you just have to do is, once you have written the code on Visual Studio Code, copy the
Yes.
code and create a code sandbox account the same way I've done it, and just paste the code right there. I'm not saying you should write your code on code sandbox. No. I'm saying
Okay.
you can write your code in Visual Studio Code, copy your code the same way I've done it right here. You can see this is my Visual Studio Code account. I have like a written code which I was working on before now, which is HTML, which is just an HTML. What I just did was I copied the code and I came to my code sandbox account right here. I came here, I let it load, and I come to my contact us page here because I have something in the HTML, in the index of HTML, and I paste it. And everything you need to do is right there. You don't need to start writing. So you can see, I just copy and paste. And all the code I've written in my HTML works same in my Visual Studio Code, works the same way it is. So you don't need to start writing, rewriting, or writing over again. Just copy and paste, and you're good to go. You understand?
Okay. Yes, but what I'm asking is because I actually submitted already, but the link I sent was a GitHub link. So do I have to go and submit the one for
If you are
Code Sandbox
submitting,
again?
if you are submitting a GitHub link, there is no how I'm going to be able to view your submission.
Oh, okay. All right.
And there is no how you can submit again. Submission is only done once on the LMS.
Okay.
Reach out to IK. Reach out to IKs and explain the situation to him. He will find a way around it for you.
Okay, please, who is IK?
The program manager.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Samuel, your hand is raised. Go ahead. Or you have spoken previously, or your hand is your hand still raised? Yetunde, go ahead and speak. Your hand is raised.
Okay, good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Yetunde.
Okay, so as regards the assignment, I wanted to you asked that we should do the CSS in styling,
Yeah,
but I
I'm
was
going
just
into
saying, can I
CSS
do the
now.
CSS? Okay, so that means if I want to submit the assignment, I might not necessarily need to do it like in styling. I can do it separately, create its own
You can do
file.
it, yeah, you can do it separately. Anyhow, just do it separately.
Okay.
Just make it beautiful. Yeah.
All right.
Because I'm going to
Thank
teach you
you.
3 ways of styling, which is inline, internal, and external. So the best possible approach for everything is an external styling. So that's better. Nice. I don't know if your name is Nice. I've mentioned it that you actually use your actual name.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Good morning, sir. That's my actual name.
Nice is actually your actual name, all right?
Yes,
So
sir. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I want to ask a question not related to this tag I'm seeing on this class. I want to ask, sorry, if I want to use nav element, where is the best place to position it when writing your code?
your nav is always based on what it means. Nav is like a navigation. It's always at the top of your screen.
Before the body?
No, inside it. Okay, now every element you are going to write has to come into your body elements.
Okay.
Everything you are going to write has to come inside your body. Do you understand?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. All right. Adam, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Good morning. Please, my own question is on like on the LMS. Like I don't even know we were given assignment because if I should log in now, it's just showing me welcome to CodeCamp, join community, set up profile, and I'm clicking on mark all as done, but it's not working, so I can't see anything. I can't see
It's
tags.
simple. It's simple. You have to click on those things one after the other. Once you click on the first one, it opens on a new tab. Go to the next, just go back to the previous tab, open it, go back, open it. That's it. Once you have clicked on it before, once you click on the three of them, it automatically shows as mark as red. Then you can now mark as done. Then you can now mark it and move on to the next.
Okay. I'll try.
Yeah, so I think it's just like a feature that was to make sure that everybody on the LMS are available. Everybody on the Discord channel, everybody on the LMS has joined the Discord channel and all. So for
Okay.
Felicitas, Ike's username on Discord is CodeCamp. So you can check him out. Yeah. So now let's go into CSS. I'm going to create a slide. Let me share my screen. Let me try to get my slide because I created a slide for that also. Just a second, please. Just a second, please. So I think it's just going to be like an introduction. So continue. Everywhere we stop, we continue in the next class. So what is CSS? I said CSS is this CSS make your website look good. So after you have built with HTML and you want to make your site beautiful, you can't just, once you finish building your house, you don't just plaster it and say your people should start living inside. You have to give it some beautiful aesthetics, the table, the chair, the coloring, and all. That's what CSS does to our website. So what is CSS? CSS simply means cascading style sheet. Is a style sheet language used to describe our presentation or appearance. So what CSS simply does basically is to control the layout, the colors, the fonts, and everything about everything you can think of color-wise, your font, the layout of how your website is simply going to look like. That is what CSS does. And like I made mention of there is the anatomy of CSS, and which is your selector, either the tag or the class. The tag, which is your tag name, probably a div, the A, the UL, your P tag. So those tags in HTML, those are the selector. You have the declaration, which is going to be the font, the line height, the color, and you now have the value, which is the declaration. So that's the simple anatomy of CSS, which is the selector. The selector can either be the tag, a class, or a div. We'll look more into it. Then we have the property. The property is your color, your background color, your colors, your font size, and anything you want to make and also as a front-end developer, like I made mention of, you wouldn't need to worry yourself too much about things like this. The colors, the font, and every other thing, because every task you'll be given in CodeCamp, a design will be given to you. So you don't have, except for this first one that we just wanted to freestyle. To be like, okay, just do it your own. You guys have good eyes for colors. I think majority of everybody in class have good eyes for colors. You have done some good color combinations here and there. You would want to show it off. So that's simply what we would be doing. So that's also there are three types of or I see there are three types of colors. I said colors. Three types of ways in which you can write your CSS. There is the inline, there is the internal, and there is the external. So there's the inline, there's the internal, and there's the external. Some of us are colorblind though. Because I don't want to believe you are colorblind. That should be on the lighter note, Well, you are like I said, we are not looking for something expert. We believe that everyone are still on the same level. I'm not looking for something expert. I'm just looking for something basically good. CSS styling. George, what do you mean by CSS styling? You can elaborate on the comment you made. So let's go into our code sandbox and also Visual Studio Code to see more on how we can work on this. So for our Visual Studio Code, I will go to what we have right here. We have internal CSS, inline CSS. This is what is called inline CSS. Inline CSS is you writing your style directly inside your CSS. Inline CSS is you writing your style directly on the particular element that you want to style. So this is what we have. I have a style, just like the way you can see on my slide behind the screen. We have a style, and we have color. We have color, and you can see there are various colors that have been selected for me. I will just do crimson blue. And once I save this and we go to our browser, you can see where is this, let's refresh this. Sorry, why? Oh, sorry, you see, I didn't save. That's why it didn't show up. So let's save and see what we have. Style crimson blue. Sorry, I wrote blue instead of crimson blue. So be careful. So you can see that once we did that, it automatically selected the element and gave it a color blue. And that's the only element that has color blue right there. So we can give the various different kind of style. So let me give each one of them. Let me call this a color also. Let me give it a different color, which is going to be red. Let me give it red and let's save. As you can see, it became red. And this kind of approach is not, is not kind of standardized, because along the line, you'll be writing CSS for not just one page. You'll be writing for multiple lines of code. You'll be writing thousands as you go on your tech journey, as you go on in becoming a front-end developer. You would not only write 5 lines of code, 10 lines of code, you will write 1,500, as many lines of code as possible across different pages. And that is why it's not always good to have your CSS written with your HTML. That's why we have something called separation of concern. We have something called separation of concern. So with the separation of concern, that's where we have external. Before we go into external CSS, there is something called inline internal CSS. So I think I've done something related to internal CSS, which is for our table element. I give our table element a style, which is what we have right here. And you can see this is how our style also looks like. But this is not also a good practice. It is always best that we have a separate CSS we have a separate file for anything we are working on. So there's something in programming called separation of concerns. You have your HTML file, you have your CSS file, and you eventually have your JavaScript file. So you know that when you're working on a particular file, when you're working on a particular file, you know that this is my HTML file. And once you're working on your CSS file, you know this is your CSS file. And once you're working on your JavaScript file, you know this is your JavaScript file. So let's go into external CSS. So how do you do your external CSS? You just come here the same way we created our HTML file, you just call style.css, styles.css. And with that, what you simply just have to do is you come to your, I think this was because we copied from Code Sandbox. So you just have link, So you just have your link, you have your rel, which is going to be for style sheet, and you're linking it directly to the name of your file, which is style.css. So you also have to be careful when you are copying your code from your Visual Studio Code. Also be careful that you are doing what? You are copying your style sheet, or you rename the style sheet you are seeing in your Code Sandbox, you rename it to what you have, so that you don't have to be like, oh, I'm copying my styles from my Visual Studio Code and pasting it on Code Sandbox. It is not working. So be careful of that. So we have our style sheet, which we have already defined. And I'm just going to copy these styles. I'm just going to comment this out. I'm going to comment this style out that we have right here. I'm going to comment it out. And for all we have right here, I'm also going to comment this out. So we can see and be well aware of what we are doing. So let's see if, as you can see, everything has come back to normal. So first thing we always do in our CSS is something called global reset. The thing we always do is we call something called global reset. And how do you do a global reset? As you can see on our browser, we have like some default margin and padding on our screen, which makes it look as if there is some spaces here and there on our website. That is true. There are some spaces. You can see from the top of my screen right here. From the top of my screen right here, there are some spaces. Sorry, I want to divide my screen properly. Sorry, let me divide my screen properly. So as you can see that there is a sort of spacing. There's a sort of spacing on our browser. So the first thing we do is do something called global reset. And how do we do that global reset? Is by calling the asterisk, and we do margin 0, padding 0, and we have, so by the time we do all these default margin and padding are removed from our screen. So as you can see, everything shrinks together. All those spaces that are on the left, on the right, on the top, on the bottom, everything went away simply because we had to do a manual reset. And this is done across all applications you'll be building. This is done across all applications that you're building, so that you don't have some hidden margin and padding that will be conflicting with your own margin and padding when you want to use them. So do we understand what I'm saying? Am I communicating? Am I making sense? Let me use the next 5 minutes to take questions. Am I making sense? Do we have any questions? Is it looking strange? Okay, Messi, hand is raised. Go ahead, Messi.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Messi. I can hear you.
The other styling,
What did you say, Messi? God's will.
going to like if you want to divide it now, you said.
Messi, your network is breaking. I can't hear you. Yeah, Messi, your network is breaking. I can't hear you. God's will. This question you simply asked me simply shows because we were using Code Sandbox, you were not following the class. Because you're asking me, are we now using Visual Studio Code now? How do we get it? How do we get it to Code Sandbox? That is a very silly question you're asking me, because this simply shows that you haven't been following, because you see that, yes, we are using Code Sandbox. I am not going to follow, and I'm not going to answer this question. No, I'm not going to answer this question, because I've been showing over the past few minutes how you copy your code and paste it on Code Sandbox as you get the required results. It doesn't matter the platform you are using, your code is going to be the same. And you're now asking me, how do we get our code to Code Sandbox? You can go and watch the video and figure it out yourself. Sunday, Ayodele, go ahead, your hand is raised. Sunday, Ayodele, your hand is raised.
Hello. Hello, sir.
Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, my question is, you said something regarding CSS. Like for instance, you shouldn't kind of worry with the coloring font. So what you are saying is, if I understand clearly, that being a developer, the font size, the color, and the rest will be given to us. We are just meant to work on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just want to understand that better. So that's
Yeah, so it is just more like the architect has given you, your UI UX designer would give you a design. They'll give you a design you're going to work with. So every colors you'll be needing are available right there. Every color you need are available right there. So you don't need to start worrying yourself of which color am I going to use here, which color am I going to use there. Also your font size. So I think in the next class, I'm going to show you how a Figma design looks like. I'm going to show you how a Figma design looks like.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Godswill Okereke, your hand is raised. Go ahead with your question.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry,
Good morning.
I think you misunderstood my question. I am following. You understand? I'm following the class. The question was, when it comes to Code Sandbox, right? I understand how you copy your code and paste to Visual Studio, but to open the CSS folder on the VS Code, I can't find it on my own end, but I can find it on Code Sandbox. That's what I was asking. How do I get the style sheet
You would
for VS Code?
you would create, can you mute yourself? I'm hearing myself back. I'm hearing a feedback. You would create a styled CSS file yourself on Visual Studio Code, not Visual Studio Code having styled CSS for you. You are going to be the one to create your styled CSS yourself, not because Visual Studio Code, when you write HTML plus CSS, what it simply does is it gives you the template for your HTML and CSS. It gives you the template. So, but for your Visual Studio Code, you are going to be the one to write the names of the files you want to create yourself. So that's simply what I did. So it's going to be the same thing that if with what we have, I have an index.html file on my Visual Studio Code and I'm using an external style sheet. What I'm simply going to do is I'm going to copy my style from my style sheet and paste it into my style sheet on Code Sandbox, and I have the same style. Do you understand now?
Yeah, yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So let's continue. So I did a global reset, and global reset is you removing, I knew someone asked that question, that what is global reset? Someone was asking, sir, did you say global reset? Yeah, I said global reset. This is global reset simply means you removing default margin and paddings that were created by your browser. That's what it simply means. You removing default margin and padding on your browser. So let's continue. So I have done the global reset, which removes all margin and padding. Then and there's now something called box sizing, which is box sizing border box. So let me go back to my slide. Let me go back to my slide and explain. So CSS border box simply means imagine that your content is divided by a padding. So it's more like a box, which right inside that box, which is the content, there is a space, there is a border, and as I wrote here, the CSS box model is a foundational concept of website that describes how the layout of the website is going to be like. It structures the spaces that are located around them, and is essential to understand because it's helpful for developers to space elements across the web. So it actually helps you to be able to define your structure. So every website you'll be using, I've not used any other, will I say, I've not used any other type of box sizing, because most of the web apps I've been building, I simply use box sizing. So it's more like a default kind of thing, but it's not also the default. It's more like I think there is content box sizing. So let me clear this box sizing. So let me, I'm trying to see, it's supposed to give me you can see there is box sizing, there's content box, and the major one I use most of the time is just box sizing, and because I have not tried any other one. So you can decide to experiment with it. Most times I've not had to build something that make me use content box. So that's it. So now let's continue. So we have created this, and let's now copy the style we had. Let's now copy our table style and paste it right there. And so let's paste it in our CSS. Let's paste this. And let's save it. You can see it automatically gives us the same style as we want it. So most times you just have to, this is the tag. So based on the explanation I give to you, which is the tag, based on the explanation I gave you, that the tag, this is the tag, which is the table, the property, which is this, which is the declaration, which is font family, and you can see I have the properties in front of it. So let's go back to my slide. I think I'm already mixing it up with the anatomy of CSS. You have the selector, which is either the selector is going to be either table, your div, your class. You then have the declaration, which is going to be what type of style are you adding, which is going to be your font family, your width, your height, your padding, your margin, and you then have a value. Your declaration is divided into two, which has a property and a value. So you have the property, which is border, any kind of property. There are a lot of CSS styling properties that we have. Then you now have the value opposite it. That's how it looks like. And I made mention of something such as class or div. So we will have something. So I know that we have multiple p tags right here. So let's do this. We have, sorry. So we have P, we have color, we have golden rod. And with this color, we have font size, to 1 pixel. So this is automatically going to give all the OP tag we have on our browser. Where did all our P tags go to? Let me do a Control Z. So, okay, it actually reduced the size. So Control Y. So I know what went wrong. So we just have 30 pixel. So you can see it gave all our P tag that we have on our browser golden red and increase the size. But in some cases, you want to have different style for different kinds of elements. We would, that's where the class comes into play. So I'll give this a class of first dash text, and let's go right here and just, instead of selecting the p tag, we do first text dash text, and we save this. As you can see, every other p tag on our browser, on our website, were not affected by that tag, simply because we targeted that element in itself. So there are two ways which you can create an element, there are two ways in which you can create a selector. Is either using a div or use a class. And a class is commonly used because you can use it across multiple elements. That's why. But for an ID, most times we use it on slim occasions, because if you don't have multiple, I'm sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. So if you have multiple elements that's going to use that particular element, that particular style, you use a class name. But in most cases, you just use what is called the text, you use the class, you use the ID. If it's just going to be like one unique element, you just use an ID for it. But if it's going to be recurring across board, you can use a class. It's just like another unwritten rule that says that if you want to have like a single unique element, what you simply have to use is an ID. And if you have like a multiple class, you simply use what is called a class name. So, and I'll make you understand this. You know, when we were in secondary school, we have something called JS1A, JS1B, JS1 Silver. So everybody is in GSS1, which is your class. So peradventure now, if they want to punish everybody in school, and they say all JSS1 students come outside, that is your class. But the moment they now put an ID or a unique identifier, which is just one silver student come outside, or just one good student come outside, you simply do what? You simply know that all of you are in GSS1, but your unique identifier that they have used to separate all of you is simply your, what is it called? The unique identifier that we use to separate all of you is the JS1 silver or gold that is attached to it. Do you understand the difference between the class and the ID using the scenario I used? Or I should explain it again? Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
do I need to re-explain what I said, or I should just go ahead? Okay, I should re-explain.
We are
Henry
with
said I should.
we are with you. We are with you, sir. Please
Henry said I
explain.
should re-explain. So I said, when you are styling, in most cases, it is not advisable that you use the tag name, because across your website, you will have different elements, that the same tag, but carrying different text. As you can see, on our browser, we have multiple texts, which is using the p tag. And the moment you start our p tag, because we are using that p tag in other places, that style we gave to the p tag automatically affected everything, which sometimes we may not want it to be so. So that's where that's where class and ID comes into play. With class and ID, what you simply have to do is that class, once you can give an element a class, like I did right here, once you give an element a class, it distinguishes it from every other element. So now we have p tag right here, we have another p tag right here, and we have another p tag below right here. We have another p tag below right here. But the moment we gave this a class, it did what? It separated it from all the p tag. That's when I was saying that in school, that class stands like a unique identifier. So that's when I was saying that when we're in secondary school, we have classes like JSS1 Gold, JSS1 Silver, JSS1 Bronze, or JSS1 ABC. So when they say all JSS1 students, your math teacher wants to punish everybody, they say all JSS1 students come outside. They simply do what? Everybody in JSS1 is coming outside to receive a punishment. But when they say JSS1 A students, JSS1 Silver students, or they add the unique identifier, you know that though they are calling JSS1 students, but they do what? They can't, there's a unique identifier to them, which is JSS1 Silver or JSS1 Gold students. So you know that, oh, they are calling JSS1 Silver students. I'm not in JSS1 Silver. I don't need to come, I don't need to be outside. That's it. So I now say that in code, when there are two various ways we identify unique identifiers when we are writing code. It's such as, will I call it the ID and the class name. Just like I made mention of, there are some unconventional rules that state that you use class name more often when you are going to use, when that class is going to be attached to various elements. So you can use one class name for multiple elements. It also saves you from the principle, it also saves you because you are using the principle of do not repeat yourself. The way we have the first class, the class of first text here, if we come right here also to the last p tag we have here, where's the p tag? Where's the p tag? Where's this? And we have a class of first text. We have it here, and we save it. You can see that though this other p tag we have right here is just an element, but because it's not having that class, the style we give to it is not affecting it. So that is the unique, that's what the class does. And I made mention of, for ID, it is a sort of like a unique identifier also, that according to unconventional practice, we were told that only if that ID is going to something like this. Let me show you. We have our H1. Let's click on our H1. You have ID and you have capital letter, capital. Let me just do capital. So except that this ID is only going to be one across your page. It's just like an unconventional practice, like an unwritten law. If only this capital is just going to be used just in one place across your website, you should have an ID. But if you are going to use it in multiple places, you should have a class. So I don't know if you understand it with the explanation I just gave just now. Do we understand it? Do we understand it? Do we understand it?
Yes, we
All
do.
right.
Yes.
All right. So based on, do we have any question? Because we should take the next 5 minutes to answer question and we call it a day today. So do you have any question I should answer? Okay, Ogochukwu, go ahead.
So yes, you started with in the CSS, you started with giving our HTML styling of margin and padding, like you setted their styles to 0. So my question is this: do you have to do this for every styling you had to do? Let's say maybe you have a design for every styling, like for every HTML file you create, do you have to put the universal selector?
Yes, yes. For every HTML file you create, you do that. Except you are using one CSS file. Except you are using one CSS file, you don't have to be doing it always. But if you are using multiple CSS file for multiple HTML pages, you have to do it. Do you understand, Ogochukwu?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, Ogochukwu, are you a male or a female? Because the Ogochukwu that comes to my head is a male, but yours is sounding like a female.
Thank God you said I sound like a female. I'm a female, please.
All right. So I know an
Yeah.
Ogochukwu that is actually a male. So he was my mentor. So that was how I'm like, okay,
Hope is
this
a good one.
yeah, he's a good person.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So can we use class and ID on the same element or apply it on? So one question I'm going to ask you is, why do you want to use Abel? Why do you want to use both class and ID on the same element? Why? What about internal styling? Do we have global reset for? Well, Emmanuel, I don't know. I've not tried it before because you won't even along the line as you go on, your code base will become more messy and it will be unreadable if you are using CSS internally. Inline, if you are using it inline, it's going to be messy and it's going to be unreadable. So it's actually advisable that you have your styling in a separate file. That's it. Or apply two different classes to. Well, Abel, if you can answer that question, why do you want to use a class and an ID on the same elements? Do you want to style them differently? Because I think we are still going to talk about what's the name? Order of priorities. So that's it. Kelvin, go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. So,
Good morning.
yeah, I want to ask a question with regarding to the unit of measurements that is being assigned to font size and probably images. So I want to know at what point can we make disparity? For example, font size, we could ascribe a PS, an EM, an REM, also for images. So at what point can we put in that disparity to ensure that, okay, yeah, how would I put it? They're
Yeah, I
just like
understand your question. I understand your question. There is, will I say, there is a topic in this which talks about CSS measurements. So I don't want us to go into that now. It's still like, I think, further into the syllabus because there is a lot of things that goes into, it's not based on discretion actually. You don't just decide, okay, I want to use pixel, I want to use rem, I want to use em, I want to use percentage. There are some kind of things that goes into consideration before doing that. So Kelvin, I think you just have to hold on until we get to that in our lecture. So I don't, because if I'm to jump to that now, it's going to be like dragging our lectures, because CSS measurement is actually more important when you're working with responsiveness. So when we get into responsiveness, that's where we talk about that. So I hope you understand and you look forward to that.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
I was asking because
Abel.
of the assignment.
Yeah, what did you say?
Yeah, I said thank you. I was asking because of the tax given.
Okay, all right. So Abel, go ahead. Your hand is raised.
Okay, thanks once again. Why I'm asking is I just paint a scenario in my head, like maybe I have 3 elements that I want to style, the same style, the same font family, font size, and color. But then maybe one of the elements I want to like change all the text to capital letters. Just one of it. And I already have that class and that ID created previously.
Yeah, I
I'm
like
asking
that
if I
question.
can combine.
I like that question. You don't necessarily have to combine. There is something called nth child in CSS. There is a way you can style, an element can have the same style, but there's a way you can style a particular one, and it's not going to affect the other ones. So there's if you read up, I'm giving you this task. If you read up on nested CSS styling and something like first child, last child, nth child. Read up on those 3: first child, last child, nth child. You would get the way to do it instead of you creating multiple class or ID. Once you use the nth child, yeah, thank you very much, Felicita. That's descendant selectors. So once you use that, just check out descendant selectors and you would understand how to use it. But I'm sure we are still definitely going to use it. We are going to talk about it in one of our lectures. So yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, guys, for today's class. We would see in our next class, which is Monday. And do have a lovely week ahead. Bye.